All right. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rodrigo. As always, this is my sidekick, Smokey the Smoke Detector. And today we're kind of taking it easy. We're just doing raids. If enough people show up who have Pokemon that they want to show off, we can do community raids. Otherwise, I'll just do some Sword and Shield raids and chat with people. Just taking it easy, looking at a Hawlucha here. Of course, we got 3 people in the raid, but the final NPC raid person is Martin, I think. Martin, of course, famous for having his Soul Rock that doesn't do anything except power up. But I can't say much since I'm opening with a Dragon Dance. Skywhale 6! Hey, how's it going? Just doing some raids, hanging out. It's all good. Do a little Dragon Dance. He's cute. I've said this before, but I really appreciate the Eviolite because it expands the number of viable Pokemon that you can have. Obviously, for raids and stuff. I think, competitively, don't want to get into it too much, but competitively, there are so many Pokemon with such gigunda stats that, you can't. It's hard to include certain Pokemon. Just because their stats are just not as good as, Regieleki or whatever. Let's be outraged. Soy okay. Hola. Hola, hola. ¿Qué tal? Aquí nada más, pues peleando contra Pokémon en Dynamax. Yeah, I came to live in the United States a long time ago, like back in the 90s. That's how long ago that was. And so a lot of my entertainment stuff, it's been in English, and I haven't known what the Spanish translation or application of things are, but I'm following streamers now who are Mexican or speak Spanish, and I was surprised to find out that there's a lot of vocabulary stuff that is very different than I expected. I know that probably the biggest surprise is that in Magic: The Gathering, your deck, the word we use in Spanish for deck is mazo, which I was surprised because I always thought it would just be baraja, which is the word for a deck of your standard kind of ace 1 2 3 king queen playing cards. But no, it has a different word. So that's that's not something I knew because I've always followed Magic: The Gathering in English.
Poison for the win.
Yeah, Saint JW. Thank you for the sub. We are done with the poison run. We actually finished it last session, but I figured we would ease out of Pokemon. Soyoke says it's funny how there are different terms in both languages. Yeah, it's just a specific term will catch on. Sanjay says it was epic. Yes, you were there. You guys should check out the VOD if you haven't seen it. It was we won that final battle with Hop by the skin of our teeth. It like, and not even then, right? It involved a lot of like, I mean, I'd like to think that it did involve strategy, but it was definitely a like, well, like, let's see if we can get him to kill himself before we die. So that's something. So yeah, different languages develop different things, and a lot of stuff in Spanish. It is just, especially entertainment and like recent terms or whatever. It's just taken straight from English. You know, they just like conjugate it in Spanish or whatever. Um, but yeah, so it's hard to tell. It's not intuitive necessarily if you're going back from English to Spanish. But I'm trying to learn a little bit more. You know, as a Latin American content creator, I'm trying to stay current with things. So yeah, what else is new? I watched the season finale of Miss Marvel. It was good. It was good. It was enjoyable. Definitely the most enjoyable aspects of the Ms. Marvel show are like the human interaction of it, right? It's like when the characters are like doing things and talking to each other and doing stuff and all of the cultural things, and it's just a lot less. I don't know. I didn't find like the action scenes to be particularly good, but they're pretty cool. Special effects are, fine. They're like solidly TV Marvel stuff. Maybe even movie Marvel caliber stuff. So it was good. It's not like it wasn't the best show ever, but like I would rather sit down and rewatch Ms. Marvel than rewatch Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight just kind of really falls apart, and I would rather rewatch Ms. Marvel than Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So there's that. Let's start with a substitute. So okay, says I'm finally getting around to watching La Casa de Papel. Have you watched that? No, I haven't. What is it? Is it what is it, and is it in a streaming service? Max Ooze. It's on Netflix? Okay. Is it a drama? It sounds like a drama. Haha. Let's see. Sakurat says, I really like Moon Knight. I'm not sure if I liked it for the show or for Ethan Hawke's and Oscar Wilde, Oscar Isaac's performances. Um, I mean, I did. Oscar Isaac is like electric on screen, right? It's like, if he's on screen, you're watching, and that's definitely true. And I just think they didn't. It wasn't like super well written. Um, a lot of people like complain that they're like, oh yeah, he blacks out during the action sequences, so they don't have to like film a fight scene. But I like that. Like, I like that aspect of it. I think that's interesting, and in a meta sense, it is kind of funny that they do that. It's like I enjoyed that just fine. Like I have kind of a slight problem with Moon Knight in that it's one of those shows that like depicts like a real world like mental health issue in a like exciting superhero-y way, and that's not always helpful. Um, but yeah, I just thought, like I'm like, where are we going with this? What are we doing? Um, I wish that I wish a lot of the middle stuff had gotten caught out, because of course, as a show that has a character who has mental health issues, we have to have like at least one episode in which we're sitting there saying, and the character's like, did I just imagine the whole thing? And we as an audience are supposed to be like, did he imagine the whole thing? And of course we know he didn't. Like, don't hit us with that, you know, Marvel Disney Plus. Like, we know he didn't. We know he's gonna be an actual superhero. Like, that doesn't do anything, right? I don't know. There's a lot of like little things in Moon Knight that I wasn't crazy about. And there's a lot of super cool things. I liked the design of the suit. I like that different personalities have a different version of the suit. The spoilers for Moon Knight. This is like, okay, too late to say spoilers for Moon Knight since I've been talking about it for like 5 minutes. But yeah, I really enjoyed what they did with the Layla character. I think it was Layla. I think that could have been slightly better. Like, there was probably a better way to do that, but I liked the final end result that we get out of that. Soyoke says, Casa de Papel is basically like Ocean's 11 in Spain. Group of misfits get together to rob the royal mint of Spain. Okay, that sounds right up my alley. I should definitely check that out, because I love ensemble groups, like ensemble shows, and I love heist shows. So okay, I'm in. I'll check it out. Sakura says, Isaac, don't know why oh, well, that happens. Sakura says, I love that part. It shows how little the three interact with each other. Yeah, it's fun. I just like... yeah, it's weird. I haven't... Yeah, I just didn't love everything about Moon Knight. Like, it's really... just fine. It's I didn't think it was bad. I guess, would I rather rewatch Moon Knight than what other Marvel shows? I would probably rather rewatch Moon Knight than Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think so far Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, it was good, it was fine, but that's probably been like the weakest one, which sucks, because I would love for the show in which, Sam accepts the mantle of Captain America to be a really good show that I was into. But at the beginning, there's a lot of military stuff, which I kind of don't care about. It's just not my cup of tea for what I want to watch when I sit down to watch a show. And then after that, I just think they really flub the main thesis of the show. It's like, do I have a fairy type that I want to use? Is this guy fairy? Yes. Yeah, I just think they flub the main thesis of the show, where it's like, yeah, these people have a point. The terrorists have a point. They are displaced and the government isn't helping them. And, they have to make them bad. They have to try and sort of redeem the messed up Captain America, and I'm not sure why they did that. Where, like, by the end, like, Sam and US Agent are patting each other on the shoulder. Yeah, they have to make... Like, they kind of infantilize the main antagonist there at the end. I just wasn't crazy about it. Like, the show was trying to do a lot of things, and I think it kind of missed the mark on a few of them. But at least it was trying, so I'll definitely give it that. Should I throw up an Aurora Veil? I'll just use an Ice Beam. Well, yeah, Ice Beam. Lagna says, there, that's my Poke guy. Yeah, it's a little Pikachu. Lagna says, Falcon and the Winter Soldier felt like they spent a lot of time setting up a future movie. Yes, definitely. Which does not make it bad, but not the best. I agree. By the way, if you're just jumping in now, and you wanna get in on some raids, let me know. You can use my friend code to friend me. Just let me know on the chat that you're interested, so that because I'm not gonna go in and check my friend request right now if nobody is if nobody's asking to do it. Sinja Joglu says the whole people returning from the snap is the single biggest problem with all the current MCU stuff. Yeah, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier try to address it, right? And that's cool. That's legit. It's fallout from all the other stuff, right? Just like, and that in and of itself is compelling, right? Because it's something about the Marvel universe, about the MCU that is not like our world, right? It's like the Vulture, right? In Spider-Man. Was that in the first Spider-Man? Was that in Spider-Man Homecoming? Yeah, I guess it was. Using this like space monster technology to create a suit. Because the government kind of changes them or whatever. So it's it's interesting. It makes you think about how the world of this, or how this universe works, and how it does continue to sort of have this continuity. Again, I don't think it was handled in a super great way by Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but at least it was handled, right? Lagna says, just watch Miss Marvel. I like more TV shows like this. Yeah, we started this conversation by talking about how I like Miss Marvel. Again, the strongest thing about Miss Marvel is like the casting and the characters. I think the main character, the actress, is really good. I think she creates a very memorable performance. I think all of her little friends are fun. Damn it, like the Jinn are okay as villains, but kind of meh. And Damage Control as an organization that is bad, like, it's good, and I'm glad they're setting it up, because speaking as a non-white person and an immigrant, like this black suits and mirror shades organization that is like after you, and isn't actually trying to protect anyone, but it's trying to that has like this weird like bad agenda, is good. It's good that the Marvel Universe has something like this, sort of like an anti-Shield. Obviously Shield turned out to be Hydra, blah blah blah. But yeah, this idea of like this government organization where like they're trying to hit a quota rather than necessarily do any sort of public good. I enjoy that, but they did not come across as like particularly compelling villains, right? So yeah, I thought it was okay. Generally, like I enjoyed it a lot. I think it takes some swings. Obviously, it changes some stuff about Ms. Marvel, which is fine. I guess I do have a slight issue with Ms. Marvel, right? Let me just talk about it just for a sec. So, superheroes, right? Ethnic superheroes, non-white superheroes. For a long time, it was when you got a superhero that wasn't white, it was usually written and created by a white person. So back in the day, you ended up with superheroes like Apache Chief or Samurai or I don't know. So sort of like ethnic stereotype superheroes. Obviously, Black Lightning hasn't always been written in the best way. So that's one. The other thing that we got a lot of the time was, or rather, like the thing there is that the superhero's power tends to be tied to their perceived cultural identity, right? Like a huge example of this is like how many Native American characters have basically magic as their powers. And I bring this up a lot, but it's like extremely egregious that a character like Forge from the X-Men. Hey, Kevin. Forge from the X-Men, right? His power is like he does machines, Donatello style. And so but eventually they make him a shaman and they give him magic powers. Why? Because he's Native American, right? So if you're Native American, you have to have magic powers. So cut to Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel in the comics is a Pakistani American. I believe that she has the same ethnicity as in the movie. And her abilities are she gets her abilities from the Terrigen Mists, right? So she's an Inhuman, and she can stretch her body and basically has Mr. Fantastic powers, but also she can like embiggen herself and stuff. And so to me that was good. It's like, here's a character. I did watch today's episode, yeah. Unless Lagnus, you're asking Kevin if he watched today's episode. But I did watch the episode today. So Miss Marvel has powers that do not have anything to do with her heritage, right? And I think that's good, because you can have some characters whose powers have to do with their heritage, but it's also nice to have characters who don't, right? Barry Allen doesn't have super speed because his family's English, right? It's like Batman doesn't call himself the New Englander. And so on, right? It's like white characters can have powers that are divorced from their ethnic identity. So, watching Ms. Marvel, I'm sitting here just kind of fretting about it, right? I fret a lot about these sorts of things. It did just come out today, so let's try not to spoil things. What was I saying? Yeah, so I'm sitting there fretting because they've taken a character who has a strong ethnic identity, right? Like the fact that she's Pakistani American, the fact that her family's Muslim is important to Kamala Khan's character. Her, like the fact, so it's like, yeah, her ethnic identity is important to her, and the fact that her powers have nothing to do with her ethnic identity is good. Is good in the Marvel universe, and is good in comic book superheroes because we've had such a bad history of that sort of thing, right? I mean, just look at the original lineup for Alpha Flight. For like, it's just like, oh, these guys are Canadian. One of them's a puck, right? So the show takes that character, and they can't do stretchy stuff. They say because it didn't look good or whatever, but it's really because they're bringing the Fantastic Four, and they don't want Kamala to steal Reed Richards' thunder. You didn't hear it from me. Or you did hear it from me, and when they finally fess up to it, you'll be like, Rodrigo was right. But yeah, so they take Kamala and they give her powers that are tied to her heritage, right? It turns out that she's well, it turns out what it turns out, but her ancestry is important to her powers. That's basically where the powers come from. It's like a legacy that she has access to. Um, so I'm sitting here like chewing my fingernails and like fretting watching this because I know that I've seen this mishandled before. Now, I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Pakistani American. I'm just I'm just someone who is like kind of tuned into this stuff because my own culture is so often weirdly represented, right? 1 second, I need to get some water. So, all this to say, I feel like, especially seeing the response online to Miss Marvel, I think that the cultural aspects have been handled well, and and also movie and TV show like the MCU superheroes are a very small ecosystem, right? And an ecosystem that is growing, but it's growing actually very slowly. When you look at, Miss Marvel in the comics, and Marvel in the comics exists in the context of decades and decades and decades of Marvel writing, DC writing, and everything else, right? It's not divorced from it. So there, it was good that Ms. Marvel's powers were not attached to her heritage. With the TV show Ms. Marvel, I'm wondering and I'm hoping that it actually turns out to be a good thing that they tied it to her heritage because we don't have a lot of superheroes who get their power from their heritage to begin with, like when you look at the MCU. And B, because it's well handled, right? So I kind of had like a personal like worry at first because I was worried that they were just gonna be like, oh, these are magical powers because you're magic because you're like from Pakistan, right? So it's like I don't want that, right? I don't want characters that is like, oh, you're foreign, then you're magic. That's definitely not what I want, because it leads to some obnoxious stuff. But I'm okay with the way that things have been done with Miss Marvel again because I feel that it's handling it well, and it only really exists in the context of the MCU. So we haven't seen tons of mishandled cultural superheroes like we have with comics. So that's basically my thing with Miss Marvel. I think it's doing it well. It still makes me a little nervous, but again, because the response from Muslim Americans, or from Muslims and from Pakistani Americans and Arabic people has been positive. I'm glad. I guess I'm glad that it happened. Anyway, that's my deal with Miss Marvel. I do enjoy the show a lot. I think it's very good. All right, Umbrella Academy. Yeah, I actually kind of don't remember what all happens in Umbrella Academy in the TV show. I know that they have all of the time travel stuff, like time travel assassin stuff in there too. I don't remember what all was mishandled, but yeah. So yeah. What else? I did enjoy this last episode of Miss Marvel. I thought it was good. It was good to see sort of the expression of her powers that they're doing. I like it just fine. Oh, I see. Oh, you're talking about how Swedish people are portrayed. They don't have beards and they're not huge. That's good. I'm trying to think about Swedish characters in American media, and there really aren't very many, aside from like very obviously the Swedish Chef from the Muppets. Um, I heard somebody say once that that oh, actually, I don't remember the story very well. I better not tell this story because I don't remember it very well. Horse One Man says, I heard Umbrella Academy is handling Elliot Page's character in a cool way, which is cool. That's good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad for, it's like, that's just really fantastic, right? For somebody to transition and then just be able to walk right back into their old job back, right? It's like, for most people who transition, that is hopefully the expectation. You're not going to be fired because you transition, but when you're talking about, movies and TV shows where there has to be this character continuity, is like, yeah, some writing has to happen. Then again, writers make concessions for people getting pregnant, basically for all kinds of stuff. So it's fine. It really shouldn't be too difficult to write a character who transitions, especially because since that's something that happens, you can just have a character transition, right? But yeah, I thought I saw something about Umbrella Academy specifically doing some maybe dimensional or time stream shenanigans, which I'm not trans and I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it. Lagna says, "Please tell the story." Oh, because it involves Swedish people. Okay, I'm going to try and tell the story. Hopefully, I don't get it wrong, but yeah. So, the Muppets have the Swedish Chef, right? And the Muppets are known anywhere. In fact, the Muppets kind of got their start in Europe because they started actually in a British on British airwaves. That's the one. Those are the people that finally gave them the go ahead to shoot the Muppets, right? So they had the Swedish Chef, and the Muppets are seen in Sweden, from what I understand. But in Sweden, the Swedish Chef is called the Norwegian Chef, I think. Right? They're like, oh yeah, he's obviously you can't have that character in Sweden. It doesn't make sense. Not only is it probably offensive, it also just doesn't make sense. The joke of the character is that he's from Sweden and he doesn't speak English very well, right? So you can have that in other languages. No, they don't call him that. They just call him the Swedish Chef. Okay, so this story is fictional then. Or no, they don't call him that. Oh, really? Okay, well, there you go. So so this story was wrong, but basically the story says they don't call him that, they call him the Norwegian Chef. And so when Norwegian people visit Sweden, they when Norwegian people visit Sweden, or when Swedish people go to Norway, people in Norway are like, "Oh, you're Swedish, Borky Bork Bork Borky Bork Bork Bork," and because they're associating with the Swedish Chef, and so people from Sweden are like, "Oh my God, Norwegians really sound like that." Anyway, that's the story that I was not necessarily wanting to tell because I didn't know how accurate it was. And because I didn't remember the details. But, yeah, so... Which apparently from a likeness I have is trading card in your wallet. Okay. It's also possible that... that there have been multiple translations of the Muppets into Swedish. So it is a possibility that at some point it got turned into something else, because I know that happens in Mexico a lot. There are multiple when I was a little kid, I watched The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and it's very difficult to find the specific translation that I watched when I was little. The most commonly found translation is one that happened later, I think. So, so yeah, things can sometimes get translated multiple times. So maybe it's true, but it didn't stay true for very long. I don't know. Horsepoint Man says another interesting international Muppets fact is that Fraggle Rock was initially imagined as an international show where the real world above the Fraggle hole would be filmed in a different place for each country, local to where the show was being aired. But it turned out that was like absolutely prohibitively expensive. Yeah, I believe that. That's a cute idea, but yeah, that makes sense. Lagna says it sounds a bit more Norwegian in the accent. That's probably the confusion. Yeah, I don't know. I saw that. I heard that story on a TV show once, and I guess I just believed it immediately because I am neither Swedish nor Norwegian. And I was like, well, yeah, surely they wouldn't just bring the Swedish Chef as is. That would be terrible. But also, I guess Swedes just have a good sense of humor, and they're like, ah ha ha, we do sound like that, Morkborg. Good times. So good for you, Sweden, for having a sense of humor. Lagna says Norwegian are a specific place in Sweden on the border, but he's been the Swedish Chef since the 70s. My trading card is from the 70s. Well, there you go. Just disregard that entire story. Maybe somebody, it's possible that somebody made it up just for the, to have a story to tell on a TV show. Lagna says, we are Swedish, we borked all over the place. Yeah, no, it's good. I'm glad that Swedish people have a good sense of humor. Good for them. There's like, I think definitely, like self-deprecating humor. I know like the Brits are all about it, but I think in Europe, that's like a lot more welcome than in the United States. Like Americans really see themselves as like totally awesome, and the deprecating humor has to be very particular for Americans to accept it. Otherwise, they do kind of tend to get upset. If it's like, oh, Americans are always eating cheeseburgers and pizzas, Americans are like, yeah, we love pizza. But if it's like, and even more intense stuff, like Americans like are always involved in a war, Americans are like, yeah, we're always involved in wars, and either, from one side they're like, and that's bad, or the other side is like, and that's awesome. But yeah, there's probably things, I know there's things where like, Americans will watch it and be like, what do you mean? Like, that is not how we perceive ourselves at all. And it's like, no, but that's how some other people perceive you. Oh, there we go. There's a little radish guy. Grass poison. Yeah, let's just do a fire type again. Horseman says, I saw the Swedish Chef puppet in a museum in New York, and he is gigantic. Yeah, so like the Muppets puppets, right? Muppets are really big because they require like 3 people to operate. So like you need a certain size to like get 3 people in there. Not all of them, most of them. I think Kermit the Frog is like a 1-person thing. But yeah, if you look at the Swedish Chef, right? Famously, one of the things that are like weirdly disturbing about the Swedish Chef is that unlike other Muppets, his hands aren't gloved. So they're like real human hands of like 1 or 2 of the puppeteers. I think the way they do it is one person does one hand, and then another person does the mouth on another hand. So it's like weirdly the hands of 2 different people. And he doesn't wear gloves, so it's like this like exposed human hands, and it's like when you notice it, it's super weird. Lagna says, Horseman says all the Muppets are larger than you might think. Yeah, they're huge. Lightning says, about half our comedies is making fun of something particularly Swedish. Sure. Um, like if every comedy show from Texas would just make fun of Texas, yeah, definitely. Comedy shows from Texas would not make fun of Texas. They would talk about how awesome Texas is and make fun of everybody else. Zemsi says, oh, that can happen here. Oh, that can happen, yeah. Horseman Man says, yeah, the chef is a live hand puppet. I've performed as one of those before. You really gotta get cozy with your partner. Yeah. Yeah. Muppet performance, like, I think, like, growing up, like, one of the things that I briefly considered being was, like, a puppeteer. Like, trying to work for, like, yeah, it would be the dream, right, to work for, like, the Jim Henson Company and puppeteer a Muppet. But man, oh man, does it seem like absolutely physically grueling to be a puppeteer for the Muppets. Like, first off, like, just right now, I can't hold my hand above my head for all that long. Like, you can see how little muscle definition I have, as well as also being very pale because I don't ever go outside. Not that that has anything to do with puppeteering, but yeah, it's like puppets, like the way that Muppets are operated, right? It's not like a ventriloquist dummy where you have him sitting on your lap and you have your hand here. It's like you are in a ditch, right, in the stage, and you are holding up your hand the whole time, or both of your hands, and you just got to do that for hours and hours while shooting, right? It's like very physically demanding. So yeah, I could never have done that that job for some health reasons. But yeah, it's something that you don't think about, right? You see the Muppets and you're like, oh, ha ha ha, cute. But yeah, the thought and time that goes into producing a show or something like that with the Muppets, or just always like Jim Henson stuff, is like huge, right? Lots of thought, lots of time go into this stuff. Zemsi says, if I recall, they were supposed to be gloved, but they filmed it without the gloves and just went with it. Yeah, I guess it's fine as long as the as long as the Swedish Chef is always performed by a white person. It's probably fine. If they ever get like a black person who wants to be the Swedish Chef, I don't know. Maybe the Swedish Chef will just have one black hand. That would be very weird, but why not? Sigidoli says, there are a lot of Scandinavian folk in my WoW guild. I never realized how much they rib each other. Yeah, nice. Horsewine Mine says, I worked as a puppeteer for a few years, but it turns out the entertainment business is absolutely killer, and also COVID knocked me out of the game. Oh, that's rough. That sucks. We used to do puppet exercises where we just walked around with our hands above our heads and our elbows at right angles. Yeah, I believe it. Because you can't get a cramp in the middle of a performance, right? It's just like, you're over here like talking or just manipulating the puppet and stuff. I mean, there's like lots of thought that goes into it, right? It's like there's a technique, and you can tell that there's a technique because sometimes other people try to do it and it looks bad and terrible. There's a video, which I'm not going to show because I don't want to get a copyright strike. I guess I can look for it and you guys can watch it on your own time. Keegan Michael Key, Muppets SNL. Let me move that over here. Where's my boop boop boop? Browser. Okay. It's this top one here. this is just like the skit is, Keegan and Keenan work security for the Muppet Show, right? That's the skit. But unlike this next one here, which is really funny because it has the performers dressed up as Muppets, or some other ones where they actually invite the Muppets, right? The Muppets have a good relationship with SNL. They have, probably the cast, maybe some other people, like non-puppeteers operate the Muppets, and it doesn't look that good. There's just something about it that's like wrong, right? Like when you think about like Kermit the Frog or whatever, like Muppets just have a level of energy that this is not bringing across, right? Like their mouths don't always match when they're moving because there's a technique to it, right? It's like when you talk as a Muppet, you actually don't do this, right? Like your mouth, like the mouth has to open. Like it's not like you don't hit the thing when the mouth closes. You hit the thing when the mouth opens, right? And it has to be a certain way. And like, I don't know, just like they don't do it right. It looks weird. And I'm just sitting there like, these Muppets look wrong. And they do, because they're not like the people at the Jim Henson Plays just bring such a level of energy to the Muppets that other people, you can't muster that casually, right? You have to be trying. All right. Let me see if I can get my captions back online, because surely they... Oh, no, there they are. Okay. Good. Horseman Man says, if I watch really terrible puppetry like this, I might shrivel up and die. It's not like the absolute worst, but the problem is that they're invoking the Muppets, right? So if I do a skit and I'm like, okay, we need a puppet for this skit, and somebody does that puppet, and it's not Muppet level quality, nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna care that much, right? Maybe real puppeteers will watch it and be like, "Oh man, this person's a rank amateur," but most people are not gonna care. The problem is that they're invoking the Muppets, right? They're being like, "Hey, look, these are supposed to be the Muppets," and it's like, no. It's like you can't. Right, it's like you can't call upon the name of the Muppets and then do a bad job puppeteering them. It looks bad. It looks wrong. Lagna says Uncanny Valley Muppets. Yeah, it is something like that. I'm just gonna take my little fracture in. Yeah, it's weird. There's the trope wrong-sounding Muppets, which is when somebody else voices the Muppets, or when a Muppets performer changes, and it just sounds completely wrong and it throws you off. But yeah, also wrong acting Muppets, is when like a puppeteer is like not doing the best job with it, not meeting your expectations of what the Muppets look like. Of course, maybe you're just tuning in and you're sitting there thinking, boy, this guy really is thinking very hard about the Muppets, right? But hey, this is the sort of content that we do here, so if you enjoy watching Pokemon raids, or maybe even joining in on a Pokemon raid and talking about the Muppets, then welcome to El Pikachu. My name is Rodrigo. This is my sidekick, Smokey the Smoke Detector, and this is what we're doing today. Horsewine Mind says there's an interesting split in what happened with Jim Henson stuff, where the Jim Henson Company is now owned by Disney, and they do like Facebook commercials, while the Jim Henson Foundation actually gives out grants to incredible experimental puppetry all over the world. Wow, that is amazing. I guess I'm glad that happened, because I would hate for like amazing experimental puppetry to not be funded, Soyoke says, "All right, Rodrigo, ya me voy. Thanks for the chat. Yeah, thanks, Soyoke. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Thanks for thanks for telling me about La Casa de Papel. I should write that down." So what else is going on? I've been playing. Somebody recommended that I play Pyre. Have you guys played Pyre? It's really good. It's a super giant game, right? So the same guys that did Hades and Transistor and Bastion did this game, and so it's like it looks amazing. It's like a small, simple game, but it looks amazing. Yeah, Pyre. Spelled like that, Lagnus. I'm having a really good time with it. I'm probably I might play it on stream at some point, but right now I want to get through. I kind of want to get through the story mode. You know how I am. Rather than, I'm not the sort of. I know that this is what gets the views, but rather than being a streamer who gets like his first reaction to a game, I actually like to have a little bit more control over the content. So I'm like, let me play through this game first, and maybe at some point I'll play it on stream. So yeah, but Pyre is really good. I'm having a really good time with it. Lagnus says Zemzi says it's pretty cool. Lagnus says I recognize the name, I haven't played it myself. Yeah, it's a sports game and it's also a fantasy game, so it's pretty interesting. Horseman says I played a bit of Pyre, fell off for no real good reason. It made me want to run a 4th edition game where all the combatants are local sports matches with a different twist. Lagnus has probably seen someone play it. Yeah, definitely. It definitely gave me that as well. Horsepoint mine, where I was like, oh, like a game like D&D 4th edition or a game like Lancer where they have specific like movement abilities would be fun to do as a sports thing. See, I got myself to Lancer. Sometimes it takes like somebody from the chat talking to me about Lancer, but this time it's just all by myself. The newest source book, the field guide to the Karakin trade baronies. I know that's a mouthful, but yeah, the latest source book talks about like gladiatorial combat and matches and stuff. So something like Pyre would definitely make sense in the trade baronies. Also, if you like that extra like indie stuff, the field guide to Soldan also has I think also has gladiatorial stuff. Lagnus says, I think you should plug how you derail yourself more on the Major Spoilers podcast. I should. No, you're right. I should bring up that 90% of these is just me getting completely derailed from what I'm doing. Lagnus says, I play some games and then I go on a tangent. And snakes! Yep. That's right. Lancer alert. So yeah, it's speaking of Lancer, this week, I don't know, like I think Twitter has just really perfected their algorithm to be like, to instead of showing you what all things that are trending, they show you a lot of trending things that are trending in your bubble. So I've seen a lot of Morkborg trending. And why is Morkborg trending? Because one of the Lancer guys, Abaddon, the art guy, the Kill 6 Billion Demon guys, kind of badmouthed Morkborg, and it got a lot of people really upset. And he's kind of walked it back, and he's like, well, it's like I was saying two different things. I was saying some games suck, and it's like, and then look at how Morkborg does things. But obviously, a lot of people took it as like, oh, I think Morkborg sucks. I've never played Morkborg, but lots of people love Morkborg. So yeah, it was definitely a thing where, like, what I want to say, like if you want to be kind about it and be like, yeah, he misspoke, is like, yeah, he did. He said, uh, he really didn't write that tweet very well, and it upset people. But very likely he was actually talking, like basically saying that like Morkborg is all style and no substance or whatever. And, people rightfully calling him out on it. And it's like, a big reason of why people got into Lancer is because of your art. Like, because of the style. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Like, I found Lancer through Kill 6 Billion Demons. So, yeah, totally. Horseman Man says, yeah, that Twitter exchange bummed me out. Yeah, it wasn't great. So, yeah, it sucked. And it's like, this guy's a real person. He's a normal guy. He can, sometimes real guys have bad takes. Again, I don't know. I never played Morkborg, but from the response, I'm guessing like lots of people really like Morkborg. And why would you go around bashing other indies, right? Lagnus says, I would like to run some more Lancer. Me too. I would love to run some more Lancer. Lagnus says, Morkborg recently released their rules for free. An art-free book, so you get all the rules at least. Yeah. That's another thing that they brought up. Lagnus says, my rule is that I only kick up. So when I slam RPGs, I bash WotC. Like, it's okay. It's like, if you have a, like, legit... Like, there are legit complaints, right? Like... There has been a lot of... Whoa. We just ran into a random shiny Flareon raid. I mean, these guys are just gonna obliterate him in one go, so... I guess I'll go with Liquidation so that it doesn't feel like I didn't do anything. But yeah, it's like all legendaries against Flareon. So I got really distracted by a shiny. This is what like Pokemon players, right? It's like blah 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 talking about something. It's like shiny. But yeah. So yeah, it is. It's like, yes, there can be legit complaints, right? It's like you got something like we've had scandals and like Green Ronin Press, right? Green Ronin is an indie. Like, you don't want to mess with them because they're indies, but if there's like allegations of something bad going on, you do want to hear about that, and you do want to amplify that if it helps like victims or whatever. But yeah, it's just like, I don't like the style of this, or like saying like this game is all style and no substance. Like even like kind of criticizing the player base I think is a lot more open. Like, I've seen a lot of criticisms of the Lancer player base that they're just so all in on Union's idea of like a perfect universe that they're like hated when people like point out that it's not perfect. And they're like, yeah, well, Union, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, people are like, yeah, but, like, NHPs are a problem. They don't jive with Union's ideas. The Karakin trade baronies don't jive with Union's ideas. And Harrison Armory doesn't jive with Union's ideas. And Union doesn't do anything about it because they're sort of tied politically and fiscally with them. Right? And people are like, well, blah. And it's like, no, that's part of the setting. That's supposed to be part of the setting. You're supposed to ask the question, is Union actually doing the right thing here? And if the answer is no, that's okay. That's something that you can either explore in your games or not explore in your games. That's fine. But, so you can always criticize. I think you can always criticize a fan base if they have some toxic ideas, or if they're like bad about not letting people speak or whatever. Zemsi says, if I recall correctly, IIRCC, I don't know what. Morkborg just translates to Dark City. It's something like that, right? I know that it's like a very normal actual thing, right? It's not like Citadel upon the mountain. It's just like, yeah, it's just like Dark City or something else. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, there it is. I guess it is Citadel. So Dark Keep. Yeah. Oh. Guys, let's catch us a shiny Flareon. You guys are good luck. Although we'll see if we actually catch him. He actually could escape and then I'd be upset. Mm. 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 Why do you do this to me, Pokemon? Oh well. Shiny Flareon got away. Spoke too soon. You're right. Yep, I just I jinxed it. So yeah, that's that's the gossip section of this stream, right? Just being like, people are being stupid on Twitter. Ditto's kind of a pain in the butt. Oh, nice. Let's see if it lets us into this G-Max. Nope. Non-G-Max version. I'm gonna bring a water type. Never mind. So what else is new? We watched Ms. Marvel. I went to see Thor: Love and Thunder. Would recommend. I enjoyed it a lot. You have to go in. No, I'm not going to spoil anything, or I'm going to try not to spoil anything, but you have to go in like accepting that it is a comedy, right? It's an action comedy, but it has like it's like more action, it's like more comedy than Thor Ragnarok. So if you watch Thor Ragnarok and thought to yourself, I love this, I also wish that there was more chuckles, then definitely Love and Thunder you're gonna like. If you were like, I like Ragnarok, but I didn't like all the jokey stuff, then don't even bother watching Love and Thunder. Like Love and Thunder is like straight up a comedy. So, and I think that's why people are upset about it. Like a lot of people did not like it. A lot of critics haven't liked Love and Thunder. But it basically does a lot of things that I like. It's like, first off, it's like it's just a Thor movie. Like other MCU characters are in it. But it's a movie about Thor and about Thor's world and the characters in like from Thor movies. So yeah, and it's not building to anything else. It's not like it's not setting you up for the next like crossover event. So yeah, I like that about it. Actually, I enjoyed it a lot. My wife, who doesn't give a flip about the MCU, really liked it. She thought it was really funny. There were a lot of sort of comedy bits that she was really into, and she even said, you know, my wife is usually like turns off her brain during like fight scenes. But there were fight scenes that she actually liked in it, so that's something. Zemsy says, I saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, that one's... Oh, no. I didn't mean to bring a like little dragon type against a fairy type. That's terrible. I just made a terrible mistake. Likeness says I like the balance in Love and Thunder. Yeah, I do too. Honestly, I would be okay with tuning down the humor a little bit and going back to like more action, but I liked it just fine. Um, I did see Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse of Madness is like the opposite of Love and Thunder, right? It's like very much like taking stuff from WandaVision and setting up some future stuff. So definitely Multiverse of Madness. Like it does give itself some great moments. Um, and the way that they set up some stuff and the payoff for it. Wow. I'm just like terrible for this raid. I guess Crunch is effective. What does Assurance do? Let's try Assurance. Oh yeah, because it's psychic, so it the fairy resistant and the psychic stuff cancel out. Likeness says, I lost a friend to one of the main plots in Love and Thunder recently, a couple of weeks ago. They just dived into the misery. I would probably not have enjoyed it much. Oh, had they just dived into the misery, I wouldn't have enjoyed it much. Yeah. Yeah, it deals with some like really serious stuff. And I think it deals with it okay. Um, um, but you lost a friend over it. Like they really didn't like it, and they're like, if you like this, then I hate you. Like it says, I said this was Lethal Weapon 3 to Lethal Weapon. You can only capture lightning in a bottle once, Ragnarok, but it doesn't make it a bad movie. Okay, I see what you're saying. And that's actually a really good analogy. That yeah, Lethal Weapon 3 definitely has a lot more comedy in it. And I think it's funny because I think the people that are upset about it probably jumped. Let's do Crunch instead. Probably jumped into the Thor wagon with Ragnarok. Is like Ragnarok is like really awesome. I guess the other thing is that no, I mean, God, like Thor has really become a so a lot of people are upset, or like some people are upset because Thor has become a comedy character, right? But it's like he was a comedy character in Ragnarok and he was a comedy character in Endgame, right? Like he does this flip, right? Because he gets wrecked in Infinity War, and then when we jump to the next one, which I just said, and now the name of it has flittered away from my head. Endgame. When you get to Endgame, yeah, you know, he's all chunky and stuff, and honestly, more fat jokes than I would have liked, but still, you know, like the idea is fine, of like Thor just like really not just letting himself go, but like going all in, right? Just like going all in on sort of like a self-indulgent, like I just want to play video games and eat chips, and I don't want to think about all the people that relied on me who died. But yeah, so and I think that's fine. I think Thor has that going for him. Thor is kind of a funny character. He's always been kind of a funny character. In the comics, he talks with like that ye verily type of English, you know. Very often his like font is different, like the font of his word balloons is different and more fancy. So Thor is a weird character. Thor is a fancy character, and like I don't know who wants like a really hardcore serious Thor. Like I feel like nobody, like I feel like that character has never existed. Literally the Norse mythology Thor wasn't that. Like, he was like a ferocious warrior, but he was also like a big drinker and a big partier, and he was like tricked by giants and stuff, and it's like, yeah, he's like, he's like a big cool guy. Like a big cool party guy who's like a really good fighter. He's basically Scott Pilgrim. It's like, if you don't want that, then like there's no Thor for you. That's just what I think anyway. What am I fighting? Oh, let's bring... Let's go lateral and bring Blackheart. Lightning says, I don't know if Lethal Weapon holds up, but I think I made my point. Well, yeah. That's all that was happening there. Lightning says, no, my friend died. I'm just avoiding spoilers. What? Oh, what? Oh, you lost a friend to one of the main plots. Oh my god. I did not, like, I thought that they didn't like the plot or they didn't like the way it was handled and they stopped being your friend. Not that your friend actually died from one of the things that happened in Love and Thunder. Okay. I apologize if I was insensitive about that, but also that's a weird way to phrase it. So I do apologize. I misread what you were saying. So I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that you lost your friend. Lagnus says Robot Thor from Civil War is the worst Thor. That's the Thor we don't want. Yeah. Thor dressed up as a bride, mass killed a bunch of giants along with Loki when they stole his hammer and demanded to marry a goddess. Yeah. Totally. Like, Thor rides around in a... what do I want to use here? Let's open up with Substitute. Thor rides around in a cart pulled by magic goats, and then he's like, oh, don't worry, I brought food. And then he kills those goats and cooks them, and then the goats grow back, right? It's like, that's like a very mythology thing to do, but if you think about it in like modern terms, that's a very weird thing, right? It's like, do the goats feel pain? Like, that's just what is happening. So I was very glad. You've probably seen it. I don't think it's a big spoiler because it happens very early on. Thor gets goats to pull his chariot, sort of. So yeah, like, they went back and they're like, okay, not just what's weird in the comics and what's weird in the MCU, but like what's weird and cool in Thor's actual mythology, and they incorporated it into Love and Thunder. So I don't know. It's very complete. It is like very much about Thor and like the Thor movies. Like almost every significant character in the Thor movies. Well, that's not true because Asgard doesn't get a lot of time. But Asgard was blown up. So anyone that hasn't been blown up, that was significant in the Thor movies, that isn't caught in a different time stream, makes a cameo. At least, if not like actually hangs out for a while. Legna says, I phrased most everything weird. I say about 50% of what I think. Well, again, I apologize if my response seemed insensitive. I just didn't quite understand. Legna says, I love the goats. The goats were good. Tony got what he deserved for Robo Thor. Yeah. Yeah, definitely want more of that. Like, it's like another part of the reason why I like Love and Thunder is because I feel like we're finally getting to a point where we can express comic book weirdness without losing people, right? Loki is another good example of that, the Loki show, where it's like, oh yeah, there's like all of these like different timelines, and Loki's from different timelines, and they're all very weird, and the ideas in the show are very weird and funny. Like there's a lot of comedy in that show, right? Same thing with WandaVision, right? WandaVision is like a very weird way to approach things, but they did it, right? It's like, I very often think, like, if this was, like, as is, if this was the first movie in the MCU, this wouldn't fly, right? It's like we've had to slowly walk here from, like, Iron Man's, like, every piece of the armor is a physical thing that gets put on. It has to look realistic when it's flying. Like, you know, it has, like, it uses the hand repulsors as weapons, but it has to, like, repurpose these repulsors to be weapons. To eventually something like Thor, where it's like, is it magic? Is it super science? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter at this stage what it is. By Endgame, both Black Panther and Iron Man were just, like, having their armors covered, like, created through, like, nanites. So it's like, you know, it's like we've come a long way, and we've allowed, like, these movies and TV shows have been allowed to push the weirdness envelope more and more and more and more. So I think we're in a good place now. I'm actually pretty happy with it, because it's allowing weirder stuff that we don't see in movies very often. Bloop. Horsepoint Mine says, I found it so funny how they eventually just did more and more nanotech for Iron Man so they could just totally hand wave him being in or out of his suit. Yeah, it's like Robert Downey Jr. does not want to be in the suit for 90% of the movie anymore. He just doesn't. He possibly can't. You know, he's like, he's in his 50s, I want to say. So he's like, no thanks, right? Like, no. Figure it out. And so they did. And yeah, it's like a lot of it, like, yeah, he just, like, takes, like, the armor, like, recedes. Same thing with Spider-Man, right? Because they give him that nanotech armor. Spider-Man can take off his mask immediately, emote, and then put it right back on when it's time to fight. So, yeah. Zemsi says they did do nanotech in the comics too. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying, like, the nanotech itself is not, like, the issue. And there isn't an issue. You know, I'm just saying, like, we've gotten pretty weird. It's like, yeah, all that stuff, we've seen it in the comics. And we've seen it in the comics for a long time. It just, you know, like, it... Like, what's a good example? Let's go. Here's the kid. Like, okay, Multiverse of Madness, right? Like, Shuma Gorath shows up in Multiverse of Madness, right? Like that, like, you've seen it in the trailers, is like that eyeball with tentacles. Like, this is where we're at, right? It's like, you couldn't have had that character in the first Iron Man movie or in the second Iron Man movie, right? It's like, we had to get here through Iron Man is possible, therefore it makes sense that Captain America is possible. Since Captain America is possible, Thor is possible. So if Thor is possible, then we can have the Avengers. If that's possible, then... Oh, I'm going to taunt this Soul Rock. So that it actually fights. That's literally the only reason why this Pokemon has taunt, in case I run into Martin. So yeah, it's like all of these movies have added not just to the continuity and the story, but to the weirdness. They've ramped up the weirdness little by little. If you go back and you watch Iron Man now, it's an incredibly mundane seeming movie. The only piece of fantastical technology is the arc reactor, right, and the Iron Man armor itself. So, but again, by Endgame, it was like nanites putting things on and off, and space aliens and magic and whatever, right? So, yeah. So I'm happy where we're at now. It's like you can have something like Miss Marvel and it doesn't feel out of place. You can have something like Moon Knight and it doesn't feel out of place. Oh, Halucha. Rock polish. Enjoy it. It's your last rock polish. As a side note, I do not take offense when people misread my poorly worded text. Was just trying to avoid spoilers. Yeah, I just misread it. Ooh, I get to use Steel Roller. Skapow. What else is new? I've been watching people play Overwatch 2. I guess the beta came out, and I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, yeah, I should never have played this game. Like it's just like such a bad fit for me. Like I'm not good at shooters. I'm not good at like things that need like twitch level like reflexes. And like I know that there are characters that don't need that are easier to use. But when you're talking about like compositions, it's like sometimes you need characters like that. And yeah, it's like it just requires a level of awareness. Harsh sunlight. No, that's not a terrain. Okay. We'll hit it with an iron head. Yeah, I'm just like I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, stopping playing this game was a good move on my part. It was just making me mad. Zemsi says, I jumped into a few streams to look at it and it looks exactly the same. It does. Yeah, it is very much just like it's like it's just another iteration on the same game. Like almost nothing about it has changed. It's like yeah, it has all the same maps and like they've changed the way that some of the maps look, but that's all, right? It's like they're just changing what they look like. And they've added some stuff and obviously added new characters. But no, it's exactly the same game. And right now, I think for the beta, either the PvE is not open in the beta, or people aren't interested in the PvE, like the people that I've seen play. So to me, that would be the most attractive thing. Is like, can I play Overwatch without other humans needing to be involved? But again, if Overwatch 1 had been like that, then I would have been very happy. But now that I went through the mild torture of playing through, or like playing Overwatch 1, I'm like, yeah, even if Overwatch 2 is like everything I would have wanted in Overwatch 1, I'm still not interested. Lagna says I have not checked out Overwatch 2 yet. Yeah, I'm not like it really feels like something that's like happening like very peripherally to the games that I'm interested in. Like, I stopped following Overwatch news a long time ago. Like, I didn't even realize that Activision had bought Blizzard until a while after. Like, people kept saying Activision Blizzard, and I'm like, did Activision buy Blizzard? I wasn't even aware that that happened. And then of course Microsoft now devouring both of them, right? I think that's right. Mm, what do I want to bring here? Bug Electric. Um, oh, definitely this. Here we go. Legnus says the PvE in Overwatch 1 for their events was so boring, so I'm not really interested in that aspect. Yeah, that's the other thing, right? It's like they were clearly, I mean, those were like clearly like experiments in PvE. So I don't know, maybe. Legnus says a lot of people seemed unaware that Activision and Blizzard was the same for a long time. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Maybe they just try to keep it hush-hush to keep their stock prices reasonable. But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I really stopped paying attention to Overwatch news for a long time. Even like, yeah, it's like the Overwatch 2, like, you know, when I was playing Overwatch, like they would come out with a cinematic, and I'd be like, oh, sweet, and watch it and whatever. It's like, and first off, like they really stopped those. Like those stopped coming out as with any sort of frequency. And then also, yeah, it's like I completely fell off. Like when they showed the cinematic for Overwatch 2, I was like, oh yeah, I had not thought about Overwatch in a very long time. And you know how like nowadays is like, if I'm watching a lot of Overwatch stuff on YouTube, then YouTube recommends more Overwatch stuff. But I had stopped for such a long time that like, I don't think it even recommended it to me. I saw it online. Like I saw it on like Twitter or something. So it's like, it's kind of amazing that there's like this big Overwatch announcement and like YouTube didn't even recommend it to me because it had been so long since I'd actually watched an Overwatch thing. Anyway, not to sit here and like be like, boo, Overwatch. Like, it just wasn't for me, you know? And the reason why I even got into it was the art, right? The like character design, the art design is like really cute and interesting. So, you know, I was into it, but yeah, after playing it for a while, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm just so bad at first-person shooters. Like, you guys don't know how bad I am at first-person shooters, and hopefully you never will, because I don't think I'm going to play a first-person shooter on this stream ever, unless it's like, I don't know, for charity or something, or if that first-person shooter is like Portal, if you count Portal as a first-person shooter, because I do like Portal. But yeah. Lagnus says Activision is evil, but at least we have the good guys of Blizzard to spend money on instead. Yeah. Lagnus says, also people get annoyed when they say this is a huge hit for Activision EA. Well, if we check the stock market, I can say you are wrong. That's the important bit for them. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Hit it with a rock. So yeah. What else? Um, Trying to think what else I've been up to. Oh, I talked about it. If you listen to the Major Spoilers pre-show, we had a like general topic show last time, so I don't remember if we said it on the pre-show or not. But I watched Cells at Work. Have you guys seen Cells at Work? It's cute. I know that I'm always late to all of these trends, right? It's like finally, it's like after after Hades like demolishes all sales records, I'm like, have you guys checked out Pyre? Um, and yeah, it's like obviously everybody who was ever interested in Cells at Work has already seen it. But it was cute. I enjoyed it a lot. The Major Spoilers podcast panel drew a lot of comparisons to Osmosis Jones. But it's not really like Osmosis Jones, or like the Magic School Bus episodes where you go inside the body, or I don't know, the Fantastic Voyage or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's cute. I'd recommend it. You guys should check out the first episode. Like, unlike a lot of other stuff, the first episode is very like emblematic of what the show is going to be. Likeness says, I used to play Overwatch with two friends in England. One is the friend I mentioned earlier. Another one had a heart attack last fall at age 43. Not sure if I'm picking it up. Oh yeah, that's a big deal. A big part of why I stopped playing Overwatch is because I was having to play exclusively with randos. I didn't have a group to play with, and I didn't feel like going to like message boards and discords and be like, hey, anybody want to play Overwatch? Like, I know that's perfectly fine, and I know that a lot of people do it, but it just seemed like, it's like I hate doing that stuff. Like, I hate meeting new people. I don't want to make new Overwatch friends. I want to make my current Overwatch friends like Overwatch, or like I want to make my current friends enjoy Overwatch. So yeah, it was tough going there for me for a little while. All right, after this raid, I'm gonna take a quick break, but I'll be back afterwards. Shaclink. Let's sword stance it. I'm worth it. I'm worth this sword stance. Magnus, you going to bed? Alright. Take it easy. Pew 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 pew. Yeah, raids are fun. Like, I can't, like, I don't know if Scarlet and Violet are going to have anything that, like, approximates raids in any way. So, I don't know. It might be a thing where, like, where, like, every once in a while I just go back to Sword and Shield to do more raids. Sinjado says, me too. Need to try and get some sleep in this heat. All right, guys. Everybody who's going to bed, go ahead and go to bed. Have a good night. I appreciate you coming by. I appreciate you staying up late to watch the stream. And I'll catch you guys later. Let's liquidate. Liquidation. Bam. Yeah, Pokemon that I wouldn't mind if they're not in the next one, definitely Gigalith. Like, I don't love Gigalith's design. I'm sure it's somebody's favorite, but I'm not crazy about it. Are the raids still open to community members? It's finally happening late enough that I'm off work. Yes, but I'm probably only going to go for another half hour. And also I'm taking a short break after this one. But yeah, afterwards, if you want to run and get your Switch, yeah, we've got like about a half an hour to do it. Kaboom. All right. Let's take a break. I'll be right back, and then maybe we'll do a little bit more community raids. All right. Let's find a raid then. Oh, actually, let's do a raid then in the Isle of Armor. Okay. Closed captioning working? Yep. Okay. Horsepawn Mine, let me know if you're back, and do I need to add you as a friend? Here's my friend code for anybody who needs it. Let me... I don't know what's in here. I mean, that's fine. Let me start doing some time travel shenanigans. Invite others. Swap this out. Initiate time travel. Turn that off. Date and time. We'll make it tomorrow. Quit looking for participants. Turn this back on. There's the 5-star. So see my friend code here. You go to here. I'll show you. You go to your page. Okay. Yeah. Then you go to add friend. And then you go with search with friend code. And then this is what my thing looks like. I should probably update it because I definitely have a lot more hair than this right now. But yeah, this is what you're gonna see. So let me know when you've sent it and I'll try to get to doing it. Okay. Just got to give it a minute. There we go. Friend request received. All right. I'm guessing that's you. Block. No. Okay. All right. So now what you do is you get into your Pokemon's game, right? And you go and you connect to the internet. Make sure you're connected to the internet. That's important. And then you want to search stamps and either max raid battles or friends only, so that you can see my invitation or my thing come up here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to initiate a fight battle. Set a link code. The link code is 8989 8989. 8989 8989. Yes. And then I will hit invite others. Okay. So you should see a card for this come up, and you should be able to jump into it. And we have 3 minutes to do it. If you don't get in, I'll just scrap the raid and do it over. But hopefully you see it, and nobody else is trying to get in right now. So unless we have some lurkers who are already my friends on Switch, which seems unlikely. Let me switch my Pokemon. Let's go with grape flavor. Oh yeah, my character's name is Ringo Lopez. Oh, that's okay. Go to the max raids one, and then um, when you can move over to the stamps and hit Y, and that'll refresh it, and you can just sit there refreshing over and over and over again. Another thing you can do is you can um, you can initialize like trading cards, and that will give you an active connection, and then it'll be easier to see. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the real unfortunate thing about this is that this game, the code is once you find the raid. So once you've seen the raid from me, the character name is Ringo Lopez. You click on that, and then it'll prompt you. You say join, and then it'll prompt you to put in the code, which is 89898989. All right. I'm gonna head and scrap this and send a new one. Same code. Yes. Invite others. So yeah, keep refreshing that. Yeah, nothing's coming up. Either max raid or friends only. Like nothing at all. You're online, right? You hit like the plus sign to make sure that you were on the internet. Oh, you see it? 89898989. Yeah, the this game has really terrible um, like oh, there you go. All right, so you can switch what Pokemon you want to use, or if you want to use that one, I mean that should be a fine Pokemon for this. Um, and I'm gonna pass you the Dynamax, so you can go ahead and Dynamax if you want. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the like connectivity and the sort of like the lobby system for this game is really bad, and they've never fixed it, and now the next Pokemon game's coming out, and so they're never gonna fix it, right? It's like actively very difficult to get into specific raids. If you just want random raids, it's still kind of challenging. Um, but if you like, it's still kind of challenging to get into them. But at least it's like a little bit easier. If you're trying to get into raids with your friends, it's unless you already know what you're doing, it's kind of a nightmare. Oh look, it's Claris here too. All right. Is your character like a librarian? Let's Hydro Pump. Oh, you just like that sweater? Yeah. Clara rocking that Slowbro, which as we've seen is like a very strong Pokemon. Galarian Slowbro is pretty ferocious. Alright, take the Dynamax if you want. Quick draw. Big rock guy. Rawr. Horsepoint Mind says it's incredible to me that Nintendo just always has the worst multiplayer functionality. They really do, and they used to not care at all. They're starting to care now. But you know, Nintendo always drags their feet about stuff like this. They're like, no, we're about families playing together on the couch. And you know, like people are like, what if you're not in the same couch as your family, right? It's like, if I move out of my parents' house, does that mean like I can't play video games with my siblings anymore? So it's like, yeah, Nintendo's just like very slow, like very slow. And I think sometimes other companies see things as opportunities. Like you have something like Xbox, which started its like online play stuff like very early and thus was like very clunky. And you have companies like Nintendo who just like refuse to even get involved until basically everyone has already done it and their players are like, please for the love of God, like give us some online functionality. But Louis says favorite Sonic music hero. That's good. Horseman Man says this was my main playthrough Colossal. I haven't gotten around to G-maxing it. Yeah, it's some work. You have to get that soup. You have to find some mushrooms and get that soup. Ah, there you go. Kick up the storm, but it doesn't matter. And of course, you know, feel free to catch it or not catch it. This is a 5-star Centiscorch, so its stats are going to be generally decent. So if you want one, catch it. If you don't, or you already have one, don't catch it. It's not a big deal. You still get all of the same treats at the end, which I was going to show people, but you know, my clicky finger got away from me. So yeah, that's kind of what community raids would be like. I don't know that we're if I try another one, I don't know that we're gonna have time because I need to jump off here at like 3:30. But yeah, that's kind of what they would be like. We'll try them again next week. I think this is probably just not a great time for people. Like, I think in general, this is just not a great time. I know that I will, you know, Twitch automatically posts my VODs. And I'll look at the VOD and it'll have like 70 views. And I'm like, I bet it got those 70 views at like 6 p.m. my time. And I was like, if I was able to stream then, I think I would get a lot more people in here. But I think I would lose like the majority of the Europeans, which isn't great. Obviously, you know, everybody who shows up to these streams is very important. But if I could also do it later, I think that would really help me out. But Louis has just finished work, so always catch the end. Yeah, it's like they're just too early. It's like too early for people in the US because yeah, they're not off work yet. So, and I had to push them even earlier. Like I used to do like kind of 2 to 4, and now I'm having to do like 1:30 to 3:30 because we pushed when we record Critical Hit up by half an hour, and I need some amount of time to decompress between this and Critical Hit, right? So because of that, I kind of need. I've had to push them to be earlier, and so not a lot of people can make it. So I don't know. We'll see if I can find a way to do later streams. But for now, we're still doing Wednesdays at around 1:30, and ending at about this time, 3:30, maybe 4 if something's going on and we need to push it. But yeah, so we'll call it good here. Sorry, Horsepoint Mine, that we only got to do one raid, but at least we got to do one raid. And yeah, you guys take it easy. We'll probably do community raids again next week. And then maybe after that, depending on how that goes, we'll move on to other random games, right? Right now, I'm not starting any new projects like the Poison Team run. So we'll see where it goes from here. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, you guys have a good night. Don't forget to listen to the Major Spoilers podcast, which you can find at majorspoilers.com, or don't forget to listen to Critical Hit, which you can also find at majorspoilers.com. Down here are my social media stuff, so most of you already know I'm at Fearsome Critter on Twitter. You can find a lot of clips from this stream at Lopez Family Variety Channel on YouTube. I know it's a mouthful, but you only have to type it once if you subscribe. And then obviously on Twitch, I am El Pikachon, so if you're watching this later on YouTube, that's where you need to go to Twitch and subscribe, is El Pikachon. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Everybody have a good night, and I'll catch you guys later.